No, well, this is my copy.
Oh, right.
I know it's mine because I've written all over it, so we're good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an extraordinary meeting of the Whitby Town Council. First of all, may I apologise for not wearing my civic chains, but they are in need of repair and will be due tomorrow for getting back together again. Notice of meeting. This notice has been called in accordance with Schedule 12, paragraph 9.1 of the Local Government Act 1972. Public notice of the meeting is given in accordance with Schedule 12, paragraph 10.2 of that Act. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Good evening, everyone. We have two apologies tonight, Councillor Wild and Councillor Bedford.
Councillor Allen will be coming in. Just got to do a jump before he gets in. No, turning up. Could I have someone to receive those apologies? Councillor Coughlin. Brown. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Declaration of interest. Declare any interest which members may have in the following agenda items. Any declaration? Public participation. Standing orders will be suspended for 15 minutes to allow for questions or statements submitted by members of the public. Do we have any members of the public?
Andy Jefferson, Whitby resident. I'd just like it to be minuted that there are no reports for items 5 and 6, neither on the website nor presented for the public at the meeting, which kind of makes it a bit futile for the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
I attended the meeting in August and I did ask the question about the 3 projects in Whitby. Now I know this is an extraordinary meeting, I've only just decided to come up. Obviously the next meeting I would guess is due for the 5th of November.
Correct.
Right, so it would be nice if the questions I asked the last full council meeting about how much money has gone on consultation, if somebody from the council has been able to find that information out for the next meeting. Because obviously, as I said in August, there's not a bucket of cement being mixed yet, and all that money's gone, and the town's, well, you know my view on it. Town. So it would be nice if somebody could answer my questions for the next council meeting about what's happened to the consultation and all the money for these 3 projects.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public wish to speak? No, thank you very much. Agenda item 4, co-option. Councillors. As councillors will know, an email was sent out early today from the clerk. We had 3 people who submitted papers for co-option. After due diligence, 1 candidate was found not to be eligible and the other 2 candidates are not able to attend tonight. So the decision has been made to defer the item until they are able to attend.
So, will there be an extraordinary reason for that?
We will timetable it to accommodate the candidates. Agenda item 5, mid-year financial report and budget planning. The report has been prepared for council setting out the financial performance of the Town Council from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 2024, and I will hand you over to the Town Clerk to present the item.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say there's a couple of bits we need to do this evening. First of all, I did also circulate the income and expenditure up to the end of September. So maybe we'll start with those reports as part of the reporting for this item, and then I'll move on to the budget forecast report, which was sent to councillors in the last few days as well. So in terms of the list of income and expenditure up till the end of September, are there any questions or comments on those lists at all? Councillor Raymond.
Can I ask why it doesn't have the budget headings, the cost centres?
This is the way the report is formatted on the system. I'll see if we can make some changes to that.
And that's the ceiling, that is okay.
Anyone else? have someone to accept the invoice income and expenditure transactions from the alleged date from the 1st of July and up to or before the 30th of September? We have a proposer. Councillor Knott, do we have a seconder? Councillor Cotton, all those in favour? Against? Abstention? That's determined. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So, moving on to information for budget considerations October 2024. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the main table, which starts on page 2. I'm going to go page by page. So I'll go through the first page of the table, then take any questions or comments people have, then the second page, third page, etc., till we get to the bottom, if that's okay with everything. But as I say, the purpose of this table, as explained in the introduction, is that the table shows the budget that was agreed by Council for this financial year, and then next to it an estimated projection to the year-end position based upon the review of the accounts up to the 30th of September, and then I put a commentary column on to help people to explain why the figures are what they are. As I've said in 1.2, this is an estimate at this stage, so the one thing I would be certain about between now and the end of March is that some of these figures will change. This is our best estimate as of now, based upon the performance in the first 6 months of the year. We've done our best to come up with the best numbers we can, but we can't guarantee them at this stage, and there may be changes between now and the end of March next year. But as I say, this information is for you, so I'm going to go through it now and say I'm very happy to take any questions or comments you have. I'll go page by page. So, the first page, so expenditure, salaries. As I've explained to you, there is an underspend of a few £1,000s on salaries from some vacant posts, but we're using that funding for the Logan Town Clerk post, so we won't have an underspend by the end. Training is slightly overspent from an emergency first aid course that's happening next week. And then into administration, stationery around budget. Protocol in postage usage seems to be higher than budget, so they are I'm using the actuals rather than the budget to estimate those year-end figures. Telephone, broadband about on budget. Office equipment, we did get some additional equipment which is actually grant funded, so there's some income that offsets the overspend there. Okay, audits. This is an important one. We now know our auditors are estimating the costs for the additional work for 22-23 to be around £10,000, and we budgeted 21,000. So what I'm saying is obviously we've had objections for the 23-24 accounts, so we'll use the rest of the £21,000 paying the audit costs of doing the objections for this audit. And then when we come to set the budget, we'll see whether that's sufficient to cover all of the auditor costs, or whether we have to make a further provision in next year's accounts should that not be sufficient. Subscriptions is on budget, so IT, website, computer maintenance. Insurance seems to be below budget. I'm trying to find if there's anything else to add to that. And then back charges are about on budget. Thank you for listening patiently to page 1. Happy to take any questions on or comments on page 1. Yes.
One of my first questions is under salaries, does that include the salary of the curator of the art gallery?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's what was in the budget, so the actuals are matching the budget.
Right, okay, that's fine. That answers the question. My other question was also related to the art gallery. It says down for Pannet and grant funded. If that's for the art gallery trust, why is that in our budget?
So is that on page 1?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, office equipment. Oh, I see. Yes. I think that I imagine that it's being used for the maintenance of the building, which is part of the council responsibilities, but I'm happy to go and double check that we're apportioning that correctly. Obviously, we work with the curator in terms of how we apportion things between Planet and ourselves. So I'll double check that.
Yeah, okay.
Councillor?
I noticed the emergency first aid, which is quite a large amount of money looking at the other features. Who's being trained for that?
I think it's all the staff.
So everyone working in
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
think it's everyone. All right, Chair, so I'll move on to the next page if that's okay with everybody. So health and safety has an additional cost this year on things like the emergency plan. We've paid our data protection costs and our travel costs are showing below budget at the moment. The admin saving, I'm assuming that's being absorbed, so I'm not showing it twice, if that makes sense. And then I'm showing two costs that weren't in the budget, recruitment for staffing, and there's an additional room hire invoice from Nick McKill that we're just following up on. Moving on to civic and councillors, mayor's allowance is low this year, we haven't needed to support that too much. Council training is below budget at the moment. Civic brigades are needed, as the mayor was explaining, the brigades need repairs, so that's coming over budget. Elections is half the budget because we're doing the co-options instead of the rest of the elections. And then again, there's some other things that we may have expenditure for in some years, but not so far this year. Similarly, events is also quite low as well. And I've kept a legal cost provision because you never know we might have to pay some legal costs. And then building management, we had an additional charge for gas in May. I think that was a prior adjustment, but we had to take it into this year's accounts. Electricity costs seem high, but that's based upon the actuals. Water rates, we've had some refunds actually. So gas, we had some underspends, we weren't sure, there was some past debt to pay, but water rates, we've got some rebates. Refuse collection is an annual fee, so that's the actual. Hygiene contracts is showing below budget at the moment. ADT is significantly over budget, but again, that's based upon the actuals. And then repairs and maintenance includes, again, that's some an item that is also that has been funded elsewhere, so it's also showing in income. So again, I'll pause there, take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, ADT, that doesn't cover the we used to have a service where they came and locked the gates at night for the park.
Yeah.
We stopped doing that.
Yeah.
That wasn't ADT, was it? ADT's the thing on the wall.
That was that. I think that might be this tech or something like that, because there was a security arrangement that ceased somewhere else.
Yes.
As we said, ADT again, I mean, why is it 6,500 budgeted? I mean, is there a reason why there is such a great discrepancy?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. Let's see if I can. If you give me a minute, Chair, I'll see if I can find. Is this expensive?
I think they were called out to them for time,
Yeah. So I think it may just be we've had a lot of call outs. Let's see if I can find it. Contracts, security control. ADT, this is it, isn't it? So 8,800. So, yeah, I guess that there's, what I noticed, there's been quite a few ins and outs on the accounts. So it seems there might be some historic invoices under investigation with regards to ADT. Some of the costs in the actual are annual costs. So it may be that I'm actually slightly overestimating it. Because, for example, there's actually a 4,000 CCTV charge, which I think is an annual one. So it might be actually that the actual is going to be nearer to maybe 12 or 15,000 rather than 17,000. It's definitely going to be over budget because the actual's higher than the budget now. But it's, again, part of the work we're doing at the moment with a couple of our suppliers is sort of talking about the historic invoice arrangements to come to a sort of final agreement with them. So the ADT is still a little bit conditioned, but there's an intruder alarm that maintenance 2,000, CCTV maintenance 4,000. Maybe that was the budget, and then some other things have happened as well that are higher than £6,000. I hope that helps to explain it.
I think that disastrous week we had has made a mess of some of the figures as well.
Yes, yeah, there are additional things that, and obviously we're talking to the loss adjuster to see if we can get some funds back for that. So it could be some of those funds are here as well. That's a good point, Thank you.
But on ADT, the call-outs, has everyone checking to see if they're getting called out for the same faults time and time again?
As I'm sure you understand, I've been here 3 weeks, but I completely agree we need to be doing that. Absolutely.
I know ABT involved, and they do that. Just put plaster on and come back more appropriate.
I mean, in the later item I've talked about the priorities for the role going forward, and there are certain areas of finance we're going to look into in more detail in the months ahead, and that will be one of them.
Okay, any more questions? On that page?
Thank you everyone.
Just on the last item, the £18,000 payment made by grant.
Yes.
Where does the grant shows coming in?
When you get to the income, I've explained it further down. I can't quite remember that way now off the top of my head, but there is. So in the Capital Heritage grants, it's one of the. I think it's one of the grants in there, isn't it? I think so. Yeah. So it's within. We're showing grants.
It's within that grant.
It's within that total grant.
Okay, thank you.
That 18,000, why is it in the main account for the council? Isn't that an account of 18,000?
I mean that's something we want to look at. Obviously, at the moment, it's not having an impact on our figures because we're showing both the income and the expenditure here. We need to do some work to do the parent return, but maybe some figures will move between the two cost centres when we come to review them. But I wanted to show what you have now. This is a work in progress. It's at the midpoint.
Any questions, Councillor Smith?
I remember that at the last FGP meeting there was some question over the financing of Pasmo's medallions. That used to come out of the mayoral allowance. Is that no longer the case? Is that got a different budget heading now?
I think it came out of civic regalia now.
Okay. But civic regalia used to come out of the mayor's allowance as well. So
Because the mayor's allowance was pared down to £500. That is purely and simply to cover the mayor's expenses.
It's in my memory.
The medallions, they're not medallions, we're just stocking back up with medallions, are they? It wasn't one.
No, what they are is that each mayor, retiring mayor and consort gets a badge to state. Yeah.
So we were just stocking back up on them.
So
that one, each of them was 475 for one and 590 for the other. Was that right then? So it's just two individual badges.
no, there was more than I think there was 6 badges ordered.
So we have stocked up. I just wonder why it was done now when we were struggling with the budget. We knew all the way, we had to cut the budget back. Why couldn't you wait another year to do that when we were short of cash? I mean, it's over £1,000. I just thought it was something that we could have actually held back on for another year.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chairman, that's rubbish. When you've served as mayor and you work as a volunteer, you don't get paid, you don't get anything out of it. I think you're entitled to get a little bit out from the council for the work that you've done and to be able to, when you go to the next things, and you've got your past mayors, it makes you very proud.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but we're talking about 3 past mayors, so we're not keeping it up to date. We've got 3 sets.
I don't understand why it had gone to 3. They should be done.
I'm just saying, we've got to be why couldn't you come another year when we strap the cap?
Well, it's a valid point. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but it's now up to date. So, any other comments on this page?
Okay, we've only got 2 pages to go. So the next page again, cleaning hygiene supplies. The actuals look like we're going to be higher than the budget, so I've been prudent there, cautious with fixed bits we haven't made any spending. The aircon also looks down, although there may be more cost the second half of the year, I don't know, but I've just doubled the actual. Heating system, we paid some boiler costs there. And then there was an historic payment to BizTech for security arrangements here. Now that wasn't budgeted for because those arrangements have now ceased, but there was a last payment to make from the previous year, so that shows us an overspend here. A lot of us will need maintenance, so I've kept £1,000 in the budget there. The Calabet fence will be done, so I've kept that budget. We'll not do the apprentice this year, so I've taken that out. Christmas lights will be confirmed with this year. We're committed to our contractors. We're committed to the contract arrangement with them, and that has cost us £27,000. Without jumping to the end, council will see we have funds to pay for that from this whole exercise. That's showing that we have the funds to pay those costs. Notice board and again, the toilets will be worked out when we do all of the DAMPO calculations, and I think that there's going to be a net position on that which is showing in the income. We'll explain that when we get to that. Water charges are lower than budget in the first 6 months, so I'm showing a saving there. War Memorial on budget. Harbour Story will be done one so far, so that's why that's 129. Twinning, not much has happened. Sparwell will be maintenance to carry out before the end of the year on that, so I've kept that budget. Neighbourhood plan, I'm showing income and expenditure of £10,000 because we've had a grant of £10,000 from the locality for this work. So it just seems sensible to show that, but it has no budgetary impact because income and expenditure are both still the same. So it's not changing the bottom line, if that makes sense. Christmas festival, okay, I'll just take a breath here. Again, similar, actually it's the same as neighbourhood plan, but more money, okay. Ahead of knowing the real actuals, I've simply taken income and expenditure equal in this budget. In this forecast. In the original budget, income was about £7,000 higher than expenditure. So I'm being prudent by equalising them. It could be that both figures are wrong in the forecast. In other words, income may be lower, expenditure may be lower. But the putting them about level seems a sensible thing to do at the moment, because that's allowing for £7,000 worse than we budgeted for at this stage. Obviously, we'll do more work on those figures over the weeks ahead, and if we need to be more prudent than that, we'll adjust still further. But I've just put them equal. So, but I recognise that the income may not be £50,000 in total. I'm just equalising the income and the expenditure at the moment. And then there's two things that weren't in the budget there. We're now committed to the footbridge costs every year, so I've put those in. And
sorry,
yeah.
how long is that going for?
20 years.
2037.
How many years?
20 years. Sorry, Chair. I believe it's £120,000.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Initial, and I think it's put up 5 years on, 6 years on, into whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the cost across 20 years.
So that's a commitment we'll need to be mindful of in future years as well. But again, as this forecast shows, we have the funds for that this year. So that's an overspend we've got to have. And then back to the toilets and historic payment. So as I say, we're doing a lot of work on this, but it's what seems to be that the previous clerk seems to have agreed that there was a historic debt to Danpo for around £13,000. So I've put that in the figures. Okay, so that's what this amount is. So then we get straight with that. We're still working on the final outcome of this, so I'm being prudent by putting that in now, while more work goes on to see what the final position will be. But let's say, according to the records that I've looked at, from the COVID period, there's a historic payment owed to Danpo, and that's why that is here. I'm just being sensible.
Sorry, Councillor Lane.
Is that set in
Nearly
stone?
what's got on the paper, go on.
Is that agreement set in stone? Is it still negotiable?
That's a fair question.
That's
Diana Lurkin was working really hard in getting to the bottom of all Danpo matters. I'm just being prudent in this forecast. I didn't want to not put it in case it does turn out we do owe that. So that we don't, we don't want to have a hit later on after we think we know what the position is. So I'm being prudent while that work is taking place. Obviously, as someone who's been here 3 weeks, I can't know what was agreed 4 years ago, but we're trying to get to the bottom of it.
We used to make very big profits from public toilets, and they in turn paid for their repairs. And then suddenly it all went downhill and we owe them money. I mean, it's a long time ago since we did the repairs on these side projects and all that sort of thing.
But as I say, there's more work to do with them. We're meeting with them, we're trying to get to the bottom of this, but obviously I want to present this forecast now, so I'll just present prudent data now to help you.
Councillor Smith.
My question is similar to Whitby's question, except it refers to the modern apprentice. That was an agreement that we would have a modern apprentice for the park for 10 years. I believe that agreement might be up now because the 10 years that involved the money from the National Lottery Fund is definitely past its normal years has. Now I know that that's balanced out by the money that we get in for the management of the offices.
Yeah.
But I think both of those things might now be redundant. It's worth checking up on that, I believe.
Okay. We can follow up on that, thank you.
Okay. So the money that we got from the lottery didn't cover the full cost, is that what you're saying?
When the lottery funding was first agreed, lottery funding had to be matched, not 50-50 match funding, but it had to be degree match funding. It was met by Whitby Town Council by agreeing to take on the modern apprentices in our part, and by Scarborough Borough Council by their input into the management of the park. So they agreed to put in quite a substantial amount of money every year in managing the park, and that accumulated to their match funding for the lottery funding. Ours was the modern apprentice, which was why it's for 10 years. And we then negotiated it back because we let the offices to Scarborough Borough Council, and they paid us the equivalent of the money that we were paying out for the modern apprentice. That wasn't part of the Heritage Lottery Fund, that was something we worked out. So that those two things balance each other out. So if one's an end, it's a factor at the end as well.
Probably North Yorkshire Council don't know this.
They might not know that, no.
Can I ask why the Christmas lights are so expensive and what commitment we've made to the contractor, and will that commitment be there for next year as well?
Okay, so that's it is a contractual commitment, and that was the amount that was